The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention when you were just talking to me. Do you think that you could repeat the question and I listen more attentively? There must have been something in all of that nothing that wasn't quite
Okay, good.
so easy to see.
Alrighty. Well, how you guys doing today, huh? I'm glad you guys are doing okay. I guess everybody's all rested up from the election, but I'm not. I had to put a paper out at 5:30 this morning, so I'm working on like 4 hours sleep in the last 3 days. That's okay. We're going to get through the show, and we're going to hopefully entertain you and educate you at the same time. As promised, you know, there's something to be said about elected officials and politicians who give their word and keep their word. And I asked both of the candidates that were running for mayor before the election if they won, if they would come back and do a monthly Methuen Mayor's Report on the Paying Attention podcast. Neil said he would be glad to do that. I don't think you were actually glad to do it, but you did say you would do it.
I did. Yeah, I am glad to do it.
And so here we are. We are at the Thursday podcast after the Tuesday election in Methuen. And wow, we haven't had a chance to go through like all the results and stuff, but all I can say is, wow, that was one hell of a landslide election. Sitting to my left, your right actually, is newly elected. It's Mayor-elect Neil Perry. Neil, thanks for joining us.
I'm still getting used to that, hearing that.
Yeah,
it's kinda,
right? Yeah. Now, is it weird or is it nice?
It's very weird. It's nice, but it's very weird.
Yeah.
I'm still waking up, same routine every day, so.
Now, what is your routine? Like, do you get up? You strike me as the kind of guy that would get up and jog 6 miles and then eat drink super like fruity, juicy, foo-foo stuff and tofu.
No, that's not true. Yeah. Actually, I wake up pretty slow, Tom, to be honest with you. So after 38 years.
When you're as old as we are, we all wake up slow.
So I wake up every day at 5:15, whether I set the alarm or not.
Oh, boy.
That's the benefit of 38 years working.
I was still up at 5:15.
Yeah.
5:15?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I'll be honest with you. The first 15 minutes, and John and the campaign team know this, I have to sit on the side of the bed and kind of collect my thoughts because at my stage of the game, I got to think about who am I, what am I doing, what's the plan for the day.
This bedroom doesn't look familiar.
That's right. No, I've never said that. Don't say No. Sometimes.
That's the current mayor. I'm sorry. I'm confusing the two of
you. But, if I don't have my glasses on, that could be true because I can't see anything. But I'm an early riser. My current health kick has really been promoted by the campaign. So the campaign helped me. I'm down 27 total.
Wow.
So I started, actively campaigning in May, and I was 234. And I'm at 207 as we sit here today. So that's the good news. So.
That's weird because I heard Dan Cibolo gained like 30 pounds during the election. So
I'm not going to.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that out loud. That was wrong.
I think he lost some weight.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So what I want to do during this, this is your first Methuen Mayor's Report.
First of many.
Of many.
Right.
We're doing this monthly, right?
We are.
But you're not really mayor yet.
No.
So I thought maybe we could chat a little bit about the election and maybe some things, moving forward. For those who are following, in the at-large race, we had DJ Beauregard came in third. Yep. Nick DeZoglio came in second.
Correct.
How the hell did that happen? I have no idea. And I think it's because his name is DeZoglio. People just vote for it. If Adolf Hitler changed his name to Bill DeZoglio, he'd win overwhelmingly in Methuen.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Jessica Finicaro topping the ticket, who was running around telling everybody for months, I'm going to be lucky to come in third. I'm in such trouble. They're all against me. Everyone's against me. And I kept telling her, people are against you because you're a friggin' leader. You're a leader and you've made decisions and you've pissed people off. And when you're a leader, you make enemies. So you should wear those enemies as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
And because it was her first kind of re-election and she hadn't really, she's still kind of new to this, right?
Yeah. She could have a little Irish blood in her like us, though, right? The Irish, we prepare for the bad news,
Right,
and then
yeah,
anything
right.
else is
a bonus.
uplifting. Yeah,
right,
right.
In the East End, we had Una Ziegler and Steve Saber, who, and you don't have to comment on this if you want, but for my regular listeners, I have to tell you, I didn't address it at the time, and I'm just going to address it a little bit now. I thought it took an awful lot of balls for East End Councilor Steve Saber, who tried to have this show taken off the air, who tried to have this show shut down, to actually show up at one of the debates and be entertained by this show that he tried to have shut down. And Dave Garofalo came over to me and said, "You want me to throw him out?" And, every fiber of my being said yes. But it was really just entertaining looking out and seeing him sitting there enjoying my show that he tried to shut down. So I said, no, you know what? Let him sit there. I kind of see this as an accomplishment for me, to look out and see the guy that tried to shut me down, that he not only did he fail, but now he's enjoying the entertainment that we're providing.
It fortifies your status as an independent journalist, really, in my mind, right? Yeah, so you're allowing people who criticize you to come in and watch, and that's an important point because I made the comment during the last debate that come Wednesday morning, come yesterday, there's no more Team Canan and Team Perry. Now it's Team Methuen. And we really kind of have to focus on that going forward. And I think, some people sit and hear that and they say, he's going to try to make it all, motherhood and apple pie. That's not the case. People are going to disagree with things that I want to do with the city. But we're going to have, transparent discussions and we're going to respect each other and we're going to arrive at decisions that are focused on what's best for the city at large. And I've said that a million times, right? And
I'm looking forward to it.
I think we got to kind of do that. I'm looking forward to sitting here every month with you and talking to the citizens about, hey, here's what's on tap. Here's what we're doing. Here's the issues we're facing. Here's the good things that are happening, so that there's more communication, which is one of the things that we did talk about during the campaign, right? That the average citizen of Methuen doesn't really get the full picture because they can't help it, because not all the information is released to them.
You get a lot of fake news out there, too.
Do.
So, you've got that fake news blogger who, it was amazing. and I'll even mention his name because you know me, I don't care. I'm not afraid of anybody. Yeah. But you had Tim Wood out there before the election who was writing stories to make his friends look good and to attack the people that were running against his friends and saying, oh, no, I'm just a journalist. I'm just trying to educate the public. Yet on election night, you would think if he was an actual journalist, he would have posted the results or something, anything, and there was nothing. He had no interest. Once all of his candidates lost, he had no interest in educating anybody all of a sudden. And I think that kind of said it all. So it's got to be hard when you're a candidate and you've got members of the so-called press, like a fake news blogger, out there pretending to be real journalists that are just writing hit pieces all the time, And when you, no matter who the candidate is, you're trying to get your message out. And then you have somebody obfuscating that. Yeah. And that's got to be tough. Well, how did you deal with that?
So one of the things we've got to focus on going forward, Tom, is there were a lot of stuff said and done during the campaign that were based on quote-unquote rumors, right? And in this day and age, and I said this at one of the town halls, I don't know if the rush to 24-hour news and social media has caused a lot of that, right? People want to be first with a breaking story, and so they'll throw anything out there, unverified. There used to be a time in a day when we used to verify certain things before we...
I remember that.
Right, yeah. So, to me, that's the biggest... one of the biggest black eyes from the campaign is, a lot of stuff was said and done based upon I heard or, rumor, this, right. and we're better than that, right? And so...
I know I am.
You are. And the other part of doing this every month is to try to keep that at a minimum.
Right.
So I'm not going to sit here and try to bluff you every month. If we've got issues, we're going to talk about those issues, right? So that the people understand the issues.
And that, we get along well, but I am going to call you to task when I think you're wrong.
As you should.
And I'm going to do it the same way I do.
You did it during the debate. Why would you stop now?
That's true. Right? That's true. Yeah. I did do it during the debate. I got my ass kicked for it afterwards, too. You got to be careful of Jen. I think I hid from her for 3 days after that.
Yeah, she's tough.
She is tough, but you would be well to have her in your administration because she knows the players. She's a lawyer and she gets it. She totally gets it.
Yeah, that's the question I've been asked most frequently the last 48 hours. So a lot of people tell me you should be going away. You should be shutting off your phone. I actually went back to work this morning because
were people looking at you like, "What is he?
What
doing
are you doing?
Yeah, what is he doing?" Yeah.
But as Scott was after 38 years, you get used to what you do, and so for me, we've set up some transition meetings to start transition planning next week, And I did have a call with Mayor Jajuga earlier today. It was a very cordial conversation, and he's
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall during that conversation. I would have loved that. Oh my God! Next time, can you just quietly conference me in just so I can giggle?
That wasn't my fault that I coughed. That was Tom's fault. Make me laugh, right? He was very nice and very cordial, and we set up our initial meetings to kind of talk through some stuff. So people ask me, what are you going to do personnel-wise? I haven't even started thinking about that, to be honest with you. I'm still, this was a grueling race, and it took a lot out of me. And I tell you, I can sympathize with your sleep story because I haven't yet got back to a normal sleep pattern. Mm-hmm. So, the night, it was so uplifting, the night of the election, and I was so caffeinated that I hadn't slept the night before because of anxiety. Right. And then I over-caffeinated the day, right, and so couldn't get a good sleep that night. Right. And then I was expecting it last night, but I woke up a lot. I kept falling asleep, kept waking up. So I'm looking forward to.
You get no sympathy from me when I lack of sleep. Let me tell you,
it is what it is.
It was crazy because everybody was saying on election night at your party, "Yeah, good. Now we all get to go home and relax." I'm like, what do you mean we, Kimusabi? Yeah. I got to go put a paper together for the next 24 hours.
Not only that, I mean, so to me, I would say phase one stopped that night, and now the harder work begins, right? And somebody I have great respect for posted on Facebook today, the election is hard, but the governing is harder.
It is hard,
right? And that's a true statement. So. I don't want people to misread this, this statement that we're going to try to focus on the positive, because there's going to be times when we disagree, and we're going to have those disagreements respectfully. Mm-hmm. But we're going to be, I'm going to use forums like yours, and I appreciate this, to kind of communicate messages to the people. And, if I make a decision that people, don't agree with, I would expect people to be in the room and say, hey, explain more about that.
Well, one of the things we're going to do, and we are going to have it coordinated for your next Methuen Mayor's report, is not only do we have people who are live coming up and throwing questions on Facebook, that's why I bring my computer with me, but also Dave's got a remote mic. Mm-hmm. So if there's a big issue going on, maybe, teacher layoffs, whatever, and this place gets crowded with people who want to ask real questions, we can give them a remote mic, and we can actually have somebody in the audience just kind of like monitor who gets the mic next and just let you take questions if you were interested in doing that.
I would love that.
I mean, that's transparency. Listen, I give you credit just for showing up. The last mayor didn't show up at city council meetings, didn't show up at school committee meetings. From what I understand, was never in his office. And from what my friend in the audience tells me, who lives in his neighborhood, he's never in his house either. He's usually in Haverhill or Salisbury or wherever else he actually lives. So just to have a mayor that shows up, people, I think, are going to be thrilled by that.
Yeah. And I'll be there. And so I'm going to go to the city council meetings. I'm going to go to the school committee meetings. I'm going to actively participate because those are things I campaigned on. Right. And so, I appreciate what you said at the beginning. People are going to find out that when I give my word, I keep it. And that's going to be a tone we're going to set going forward. And that, we're going to talk to all representatives of the city that, giving our word and keeping our word is going to become an important part of what we do.
Right. So now you're going to be hitting the ground running in January. It's going to be obviously a very awkward transition between a Jajuga administration and a real administration. I asked you this on election night, so maybe we can talk about the things we didn't already talk about for those who are always following us. What are the things that you plan on hitting the ground with in January? You've got a lot of big things already on the plate before you even step in.
Yeah. So I think, when we did the live stream the other night, what I kind of gave you as feedback is kind of where I'd go to start. So to me, everything starts with, I'm looking forward to a smooth transition, to be honest with you. I talked to the mayor today. My plan is to talk to the CAFO shortly after that, and to talk to Sean Cronin from the state, kind of get their feedback, and kind of start ground zero from I've talked about a forensic fiscal analysis, and I think that's extremely important going forward. And that is like mission one. But what we're going to do is we're going to put together a transition plan, because you're going to find I'm a very process-related kind of person.
Listen, I love that. Yeah. That's music to my ears. Yeah. Music to my ears.
Yeah. So we're going to take a look at all the various aspects of the city government and analyze them, and take a look at them and how they run. We're putting together a questionnaire for each of the departments as part of the transition plan. And the thought is we're going to meet early next week, my strategy team, and we're going to put together a detailed transition plan. And we're happy to share that with people if they're interested, to talk about what we're doing and what information we're trying to put together. But, for me, it all starts with understanding the financials. And not that that's the only thing. For the viewing audience, today to me is an important thing, right? I committed to you that we would do this monthly.
It's just because you love me.
I do love you, but I want to sit here whether things are going well or not going well, and that's kind of the change going forward. I was elected by the people. I work for the people. And so we have to answer the questions that the people have. It's more important that we're communicating to them. And I think, in this day and age, that's a preeminent right of every citizen to understand fully what's going on with the city government and how it's representing them. And so it starts with the financials, but it also starts with the integrity piece. And I'm not going to take any shots at anybody, but I think...
Oh, no, please do. This is the place to do it. This is the place to take the shots.
You got to stop making me cough.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Ed. As I went door to door, and so I would tell you, despite all my anxiety the night before the election, we heard common themes, and I think you've heard this. When we went door to door, there was a lot of, and the police contract was one of them. But the other thing was conflicts and transparency. Those were themes that kept repeating. And I said this in the debate. I don't know that people believe it or not. Those aren't themes that Neil Perry came up with. Those are what the citizens were feeling, and that's what they wanted to talk about. And so those become the issues because that's what the citizens care about.
I call that the Diana DiZoglio strategy. When she first ran against Dave Teresi way back when, she would go door to door, and she'd call me and she'd say, people are asking me what my platform is. She says, and I'm just telling them, I'm not here to promote my platform. I'm here to find out what you want me to do. I'm going to be your representative. But people don't get it because they keep saying, well, what do you want me to know about you? And she's like, no, it's what I want to know about you. And so I think that's a great strategy because I think so many people at every level of government, people are very, very jaded about the people who represent them and think that, they're going to knock on my door, they're going to tell me what I want to hear, and then they're going to do whatever they want when they get in.
Absolutely. Well, think about it. I'm not going to get off on national politics, but what's the preeminent mood of the people in the country on national politics? That politicians do what is in their best interest versus what's in all of our best interest.
Both parties have sold us out.
Yes.
I've said that a number of times.
You got to worry about that. And so that's, I'm going to stick to everything that I talked about. So, the forensics, like I said, the start of the financials, but also reestablishing the integrity. And all kidding aside, doing things like this monthly, I've thought of other communication vehicles, addressing the city website that people can understand what's being discussed, when, where, why, and what the options are for the city. Those are all important pieces of being more transparent and letting people get involved in our government.
So now have you sat down with, and I can't imagine that you haven't, but you might not have. Have you sat down with Chief Solomon with all of the discussion about police contracts? And there was one candidate that talked about mismanagement on Hampshire Street and all these conspiracy theories. Have you sat down with Joe and talked to him about any of this stuff?
No.
You haven't?
No, not yet. So, but that will come. So that's in the plan. To me, that's part of the transition plan. Is all of the department heads, not just Joe Solomon. We have to have a sit down and kind of a walkthrough of all aspects, and not just I don't want you to think just the financials, but all aspects, the personnel, what things are working well, where are you budgetarily, because they're midstream in their budget, right? So where are they? What are the personnel issues? What other issues you're facing? And that's what we're coming up with a questionnaire for them. We're going to give them, ask them for information, and use that to focus a discussion with each of the department heads. And we're probably going to have, I'd say, like 4 different focus transition teams. So members of my strategy team will be involved with different areas of the transition plan. Now, they don't know this, John, just look at me in the audience, but that's kind of how...
We tried to get her up here. She wouldn't come.
I know, but I trust those people.
Yeah.
And they gave me good advice all during the campaign. When things got most frustrating, they were really there for me, and they helped me through, and their advice was solid. So we're going to go to the well one more time, and we're going to use members of the strategy team to kind of work with me and the department heads so that I'm not multiple pairs of eyes are looking at information, and we will bring in, subject matter experts in certain areas. And I will reach out and include, newly elected city councilors to kind of get their feedback as well, so that they feel part of what we're trying to develop here and understand the fuller picture.
That's a big change from the current mayor, who doesn't even show up at meetings.
Yeah. Well, and so, all of that transition planning, believe it or not, and you probably figured this out, there's not a lot of time to do that. There's calendar-wise, it's 8 weeks, right?
It's a blink of an eye.
But it goes by with the 2 holidays. You really have 6 hard weeks, and so we've got to focus a schedule, and we're going to put together a plan. And like I said, we'll have it by next Wednesday, and we will start publishing. Okay, here's what we're going to do here, and before I come back, we'll be able to share that with you so that you can talk to the viewing audience about what it is. So,
one of the things that we talked about during the debates, and we talked about an awful lot outside of the debates, was the issue of homelessness. And I was pleasantly surprised last night when we were at the TMF Family Dinner for the Homeless in Lawrence, where you showed up with food and clothes, and you weren't there to give a speech. Like every other politician that shows up goes over to Mike Gorman and says, "Hey, can I say a few words? These people are homeless. They can't vote for you." But you didn't show up asking for it. You didn't show up to try and get in a photo op. You showed up, you donated food, you donated clothes, and then you put on gloves, and you went and you served people food like everybody else that donated.
It was an awesome experience. Yeah. I got to be honest with you, and you and I have talked about that a couple times, not just in debates. And Mark had talked to me, and I wanted to do it before. The hard part of doing what I was doing campaign-wise was working and campaigning, and it was exhausting.
Plus, if you went before the election, people would say you were doing it because you're running. Yeah. And so the fact that you did it the day after the election to kind of set a tone and say, "Hey, look, I'm a hands-on guy. I'm gonna put my gloves on. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna do what needs to be done." Yeah.
I saw a great need. And so, I'd like to, I won't lie to you, I'd like to see that done in Methuen too. Yeah. And so I think, one of the things that we've got to restore is, and I know a lot of people, I want to be careful with my comments because I don't want to offend anybody, but I think, that community spirit that drives taking care of your brothers and your sisters is extremely important. And we've got to get back to that in Methuen. We're so focused on the negative that it's time to turn the page here. Right. And to me, more than anything else, I'm not sitting here tooting my horn saying 71% of the people said Neil Perry, he's terrific.
That's a mandate. Can't even.
It's a mandate, but it's a mandate for change, right? And so it says we don't like the way things are going, and part of that is all the negativity that we've had. And so that mandate for change is let's do some good things. And I loved last night. I got to be honest with you. My hands were really cold. I won't lie. I spent the whole time serving thinking about these poor men and women and where they're going to sleep, right? Because it was pretty darn cold.
When it's over, you and I go home to a warm house, and they go to a cold tent.
Correct.
And I can.
I went home and I dialed up my Nest thermostat to 72.
Right.
I was like,
right.
Yeah.
So, a big shout out to Mike Gorman and TMF and Deb Carberry at the Someone Cares Care Packages, and all the people who are in the community who are not looking for votes. They're not looking for thank yous. They're not looking for pats in the back. But I'll put this out.
No, it's not you.
But what they do is they see a need. They see someone who's a human being. Some of them have felony records. Some of them are sex offenders. Yeah. But they're still human beings. They're on the street, and they're hungry, and they're cold.
Some of them are addicts. Some of them, right?
Right. And so what they do at TMF Family Dinner for the Homeless is they've partnered with Veterans Northeast Outreach. In case a veteran shows up and is homeless, we can get them into a unit that night.
Right.
If you are addicted, Tewksbury Detox is there. And if you need a bed, even though it's usually it takes a long time to get a bed, right? But we've got connections.
And they had the health check there last night, which was very impressive.
The health van was great.
There were a couple of folks I saw from the city of Methuen. Jill Stacklin was there working, and that
And she's there every week.
Yeah, I know.
There were a couple of people that showed up because I think Mark posted it on Facebook that you were there. So people who are fans of yours from Methuen kind of showed up to see what you were up to.
I have fans?
You're fans, yep. But Jill Stacklin is there every single week, and she's there serving. And not only is she at TMF feeding the homeless, she also helps out with Cor Unum and a couple of the others. So, I mean, it's a great group of people. And if we could replicate that in the other communities, Methuen, Andover, North Andover, what happens is right now, if you've, and we talked about this during the debate, if you've been working your whole life, you've been paying taxes, maybe you got a $300,000 home in Methuen, and something bad happens. Your wife throws you out, you lose your job, and you become homeless.
Not that we've experienced that.
Right, yeah. All of a sudden, there's no place in Methuen that will give you any services, food, clothing, shelter, anything. And you've paid taxes your whole life to that community, and they've got to be shrugging their shoulders and going, well, what the hell did I do that for?
Right.
I mean, with all the services, there's nothing for me, so where do they end up?
Right.
They end up in Lawrence.
And not only that, and I agree with you. And now that, I'm standing there last night, and it won't be the last time for me either. I'll be back. But I'm thinking, we're coming into the cold weather months, and so I would say to the viewing audience, if you've got extra. So what I did was I went around my closet and said, I never wear this, I never wear that, and some of them were terrific, brand new. Yeah. Basically, I hadn't worn. Why not give it to somebody who can use it and protect them from the cold? And as we head towards the holidays, what better way to show, right? So I've got a good friend of mine, Linda Harvey. She does Debbie's Treasure Chest. She does a great job.
Another great organization.
And she's got warming night coming up, so I saved a couple coats for her as well, right? So I put a plug in for her. I was tremendously impressed with Mike Gorman. Yeah. He's the real deal.
A 26-year-old kid that, after all of the bloviating by politicians at election time who pretend they care about the poor, Elizabeth Warren, who has represented Lawrence for 6 years and never even once picked up the phone and called Daybreak to see what she could do to help them, but yet comes to Lawrence and campaigns and pretends that she cares about the poor. Every single one of these Democrat politicians, because they are all Democrats, right? And yet it took this 26-year-old kid to get a bunch of Lawrence Latino kids from the projects together, who themselves have only a little bit more than those homeless people, going out and finding people in need and giving them blankets and giving them food, hand warmers, sterno cans, whatever it is that we can get to them, so that at least they're not suffering. And that's the thing. Like, you don't want to enable someone who's addicted. You don't ever want to give them money. If someone's homeless, never give them money. But go through a drive-through and get them a number one at McDonald's and bring them some food that they will eat. Absolutely. And to see this 26-year-old kid just defy everything, while Lawrence City Councilors are having years of meetings and meetings upon meetings about meetings as to how we can help the homeless, this kid just got a bunch of people went out and said, okay, let's just go feed them now. And they're hungry now, let's just go feed them now.
There's an important lesson there, right? So, and it's not lost on me. You can plan all you want.
Right.
Right? Sometimes you just have to execute.
Right.
And in his case, he said, I know how to do this. I can start this. And he didn't start with any grandiose scheme. He started.
We had no idea it would get this big.
Correct.
We had no idea.
Correct. And I was impressed with the whole thing. And Mike Samard stopped by. He was on duty, and we did the circle.
He's always helping.
It was moving. It really was moving. Yeah. I can be honest with you. I felt better going home. So to the viewing audience, think about some of these places. Think about TMF. Think about Debbie's Treasure Chest. If you got stuff at home, that's gently worn. Let's say that others could use. Let's donate it. Right. Let's make a drive here.
But please, if you're going to do that, don't go out and buy anything, because what we've run into is there was a guy on the street that he had sneakers that were falling apart. It was last November. It was very cold. It was snowing, and he said he needed shoes. So I posted on Facebook that his size was 9.5 and he really needed shoes. So someone was actually shopping at Kohl's when she saw it on her phone, bought some 9.5 shoes, brought it down, like an hour later, showed up with shoes. And a week later, I ran into the guy's name was Gary. I ran into him, and he was wearing the old sneakers, and I said, it's snowing out, where are your shoes? Oh, I sold them for drugs. So you never want to give them anything that's new, because that's currency on the street, and they'll use it to buy drugs. What you want to do is something, like you said, gently worn, something that's not really sellable but wearable and usable. And those are the kinds of I'll tell you the one thing I get asked the most from November on is sterno cans, because they last forever, and they will heat someone's tent. And it will allow them, if someone gives them like a can of beans or something, they can open the can of beans, but they're called beans, and they can put them over the sterno, and they can cook.
Although I will say that, I was the hot dog and bean guy last night.
I saw that.
The beans weren't that popular. The hot dogs were tremendously popular.
I thought the beans were great.
Yeah, me too.
The other great thing, not to stay on one subject, but the other great thing about TMF is the kids that are serving the food have almost as little as the people they're serving.
And they were all positive and upbeat.
And they just have such a great attitude. So at the end of the night, we always try, if there's food left over, we try to give it to the kids that volunteer, because they're going home to empty cupboards.
Right.
And to see that dynamic in the city of Lawrence, when all we generally hear is negative, is great. But to see a guy like you come in and say, yeah, this is something maybe we can replicate in our
Absolutely.
town. That's tremendous for the entire Merrimack Valley. I got to commend you. I really do, because we never once saw Jim Jajuga. We never once saw him. And Dan Rivera, who's the actual mayor of Lawrence, has tried to shut them down. So, to finally have a leader in the Merrimack Valley, I got to take my hat off.
Well, so to say to the citizens, I was tremendously impressed with the whole organization, not just the startup. When the night was over at 10 o'clock, you could not tell anybody had been there.
Right.
All the trash was picked up. Everything was put away. It was nice, neat, and organized. And I think that's important, right? Because too many times people think, if we've got homeless people, they're going to leave a mess behind. That's not what I saw.
No.
I saw committed volunteers who left the place looking every bit as good as it was when we first got there. And that was truly impressive to me. So we've got to do better, especially, like I said, with the cold months coming.
Once you've wrapped your head around all of this stuff and you've gotten past your transition, I'm going to introduce you to somebody who's as awesome as Jana Natali.
Okay.
Her name is...
That's a tough challenge right there.
You are going to be really impressed.
Yeah.
You're going to be really impressed. Her name is Carrie Weiland, and she runs a place called House of Mercy in Lawrence off Bay State Road. And I have to tell you, I've been in almost every community in Massachusetts. I've never seen anything like this. It's a daycare center for the homeless.
Wow.
So if you are sleeping at the Daybreak Homeless Shelter, they kick you out at 7 in the morning, or if you slept in a tent last night and you get up the next morning, at 9 o'clock they open. You can take a shower. They'll help you do your laundry. They'll feed you lunch. People drop off clothing donations there. So if you need new socks, if you need new underwear, they've got tons of stuff there. And if you need transitional housing, or if you need to get into detox, Carrie knows everybody in the business. Yeah. She can make a phone call if there's a 30-day waiting list, and she can get you in that day.
Yeah.
And I want to introduce you to her, but
I'd love to.
I don't want to inundate you with too much stuff.
So I mentioned warming night, and that's coming up this month. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to go back to TMF, and we're going to figure out a way that, once I'm no longer mayor-elect, I'm mayor. How do we do this, in Methuen, and how do we do the same kind of thing that they're doing there? Right? Truly impressive. I loved it.
That's great. I could sit here and talk about homeless stuff all day. Let's transition a little bit. You're going to be chairman of the school committee. I hated all of your answers during the debate. I also
appreciate that.
I also hated your answer the night that I interviewed you, the night that you won. And I'm probably going to hate your answers again today.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah.
But you're going to be chairman of the school committee. There's a lot of shenanigans going on there. There's a lot of shenanigans going on in that school system, and you're coming in, and we haven't been able to unearth what some of those things are because the previous school committee did no investigation, let Junie Scanner walk away with a pension, and so now what everybody is saying, and with all due respect, you're also saying is, well, we got to move forward for the children. Let's just move forward. Which is admirable, but if you don't know the cancer that's there, that's spreading, that's inside the system, if you don't address that and identify it, then moving forward, you're building a house up on a cracked foundation. You're going to have problems later on.
I don't think So one of the things I want to explain is I think going in, there's certain things like the financials. And I hate to keep going back to that, Tom, but it's the easiest example. So putting that ERP system in, as much as I'm a little concerned, I don't want the citizens to think it's a panacea. And I think I said that during the debate because I work at a company that has an ERP system and a lot of smart people. And the first year that you put it in, it's difficult. It's like learning to speak a foreign language. So, the decision was made to procure the system. I'm going to support that. I don't want the citizens to think that's the panacea, like I said. We've got to do much more. And active involvement by the mayor on the school committee is one of the things so that he or she, now that we know, understands, the issues that the schools are facing. I think the answer that I gave that you didn't like was, would I go back and reinvestigate? And my answer to that was, you really got to be careful.
It was a no without saying no.
It was not a no. What I said was you have to be careful. So I have a contractual mind. That's what I do for a living. And so we have representatives of the city who have made a settlement agreement. There may not be the avenue to do anything other than that because people representing the city, and my answer to you during the debate was, all the way up, even now as mayor-elect, I really don't have standing. I'm just another citizen right now. Granted, I'm mayor-elect, but
you've already done more than the last mayor did, and he's already mayor, so.
Yeah. So
just saying.
I'm just saying we can look at it. My answer was I don't want to promise anything, and I'm not talking retribution or anything. I think you look at it for what caused it, and the deeper look of that is around we do have the results of that audit, right, that say it wasn't all special education. Right. So if you remember the
I
first answer was...
I got skewered every time I said it wasn't $4 million for special ed, and I had people skewing me, calling me a liar, saying I was making it up. And you've seen the audit.
Yeah, I did.
I did too.
So, and if you remember during the campaign, and the people that knocked door to door with me would tell you, the only time that the police contract was not number one in the houses was a 2 to 3 day period when the front page of the Tribune had the audit results. Mm-hmm. So for a very short period of time, the compass kind of moved back to
schools.
The schools, and that the overspend. And one of the things that we have talked about is a lot of people think that the police contract is responsible for the financial condition.
We can
of the
thank
city.
the Tribune for that. That's fake news.
Right. Well, in publishing that number, it gets people all emotional, that 4 number, right?
Right.
So reality, we borrowed money because the schools overran. That's the source of our financial.
There was money to pay the cops. There wasn't money to pay the schools.
Correct. So we've got to take a hard look at the results of the audit. Is my answer to you, and what caused that, and how does the ERP system help that? I think it does, but I'm going to keep saying I don't think it 100% solves it. And so,
well, it's only a tool for you guys to be able to see what the real reality financially is right now today.
Yeah.
And then once you have that, people can't lie to you at meetings.
Right. Well, if the CAFA was here, I'm sure she's saying her position also.
You should bring her to the next mayor's report.
I will invite her. That's up to her whether she accepts or not.
Right.
So, and I look forward to working with her. She's got oversight. So if you look at, before, we had an auditor, but the school books and the city books were separate. There was not oversight from the auditor to the school budget. Mm-hmm. They kept their own thing, and that's a problem, especially when it's 55 to 60% of your city budget.
Right.
So carrying a couple of line items in the larger sense is not enough to show you that the train's going off the track. So there's the positive of the system and the CAFO taking a look regularly, like monthly. So one of the things that I'll ask the CAFO when I sit down with her eventually is, so what are we going to look at every month that tells us that the school, this is the answer to your question. How do we not repeat the mistake? Because to me, making the mistake is one thing, repeating the mistake is unforgivable.
Right.
And so we've got to take a look at, what the budget is for the schools and where we are, what the staffing is for the schools and where we are, and how visible is that? And that should be done, regularly.
We have a question from the audience. Wants to know how you plan on saving the loop. I guess there's been rumors and all kinds of stories going around that the loop is getting ready to fail, which is usually what causes something to fail when people start saying it's going to. Yeah. Do you have any ideas? Do you have any plans on? I
got a bunch of ideas. I have not started executing on any of them yet, but I would tell you that one of the ones that I used at one of the town halls that seemed to have a lot of positive is, I don't know if people have experienced King's Bowling in Burlington.
Yes.
So it's not your grandmother and grandfather's bowling, right? It's a much more social. And in fact, a lot of people do events, holiday parties, bride and bridegroom events there. So they've got one in Burlington. It's constantly jammed. We need destinations like that. And I'm not ready. So part of that falls on the mayor being a big cheerleader and the city council being big cheerleaders and how you get businesses in here. And I'm not ready to say because the Tuscan Marketplace is going in here and Riverwalk is going to Lawrence that the loop is going to fail. I don't think that's the case. I think if we're smart and we put the right things at the loop, you've got people that are going to be coming from distances to go to the Tuscan Marketplace. You've got people coming from distances to go to Riverwalk. And when there's crowds, yourself that people like to go places that aren't too far away to eat, to relax, to see a movie, to do whatever.
Can you explain what Riverwalk is? Because everybody keeps talking about this new Riverwalk. The only Riverwalk I know is the one in Lawrence.
Well, I'm talking about the one that exists in Lawrence. And then Sal's going to add to it. He's going to, he's got that plan to put, what do you call it? He's got like a sports stadium going to be on the top, and he's going to, and he's done a great job.
Amazing. He single-handedly saved Lawrence. Salopoli.
I don't know if it's but he's done one hell of a job. We got to admit that. And so to me, that says, when I turn and look at the citizens of Methuen, that tells us that, you don't throw the towel in. And I use the example in debates and in town halls. Look at downtown Haverhill. Look at downtown Haverhill compared to 5 years ago.
It was a ghost town.
Yeah. And it's not anymore. Right. And now it's bringing people back. So we've got to focus on things whether they're restaurants or events or venues that people will come to. And that, to me, having people come to Tuscan Market from a long way, Tuscan Marketplace or whatever it's called, is a good thing because that's going to bring more people into the region, right? And to me, that's an opportunity for Methuen to have events, places. I said King's. We talked about Trader Joe's, right? Now, I'll say this. I don't mean I'm not a big Trader Joe's guy. My kids love it.
Yeah, I'm not a big Trader Joe's guy either.
Yeah.
I'm more of a TGI Fridays kind of guy.
I'm a Wegmans kind of guy.
I see everybody keeps telling me, my distributor for the Valley Patriot calls me one day and says, we just got a contract with Wegmans. Do you want to get into Wegmans? I don't even know what a Wegmans is.
Oh, my God.
She says, no, you got to get your paper into Wegmans. And I'm like, I don't even know what it is. I'm not going into a place I don't even know.
You go to Wegmans is on 3rd, I think it's 3rd Street in Burlington. It's a grocery store, but it's more of an experience as a grocery store, right? So.
Well, it seems like everything is just becoming merged. Every business is merging with another business. I never thought in my life I'd be pulling into a Taco Bell and having them have a Kentucky Fried Chicken in the same place. Like, how does that even work?
Yeah, can I confess my guilty pleasure?
Sure.
I love both of those places.
Taco Bell, I'm there every day.
Bell. I'm a big, taco guy.
Me too.
It goes back to my early days when I was teaching. I love tacos. I love Taco Bell. I love KFC. It's a guilty pleasure.
Yeah. Mexico Lindo is a great business in Methuen. They don't advertise, but I do eat there frequently.
They advertise on my Sunday morning radio show.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
All right, well, good. Then I'm glad we gave them a free plug. We have another question from the audience. We do have some time about residency checks in the schools. Now, Jana DiNatale, who worked on your campaign, we covered a story last year, or 2 years ago, where Jana had put up a SurveyMonkey survey online asking people about residency checks in Methuen, and she got savaged. Yeah. She got savaged by the school committee. They had an illegal executive session where they said they were going into executive session to talk about litigation, and all they did was beat up on Jana, telling her she had no right to do that. And so now we've got a mayor who I think is kind of on the same page as her on that issue.
He is.
How do you plan on tackling that?
Well, so my only point to the citizens is, before you get up, so why would we want our tax dollars spent on kids from other cities?
Right.
It's a simple. It's not a personal thing. I'm not anti-children.
No, but it's going to get turned into a racial thing. You know that.
It's got nothing to do with that, right? So. And
that's immediately when Nick DiZoglio went. when that whole issue came up. It's all about race.
That's
not about
true.
race.
It's not about race. It's all about doing the right thing. And so you're going to hear that. I think his brother used that as a slogan for the school committee: "Do the right thing." This is do the right thing. Our class sizes are too large. So the solutions we face are pretty straightforward. Either we make sure we have an aggressive plan to make sure the students are all ours, and they are. Then we have to face that from a budgetary perspective. What do we do going forward? Right. Or you partner with your school resource officers in your schools to have a more aggressive plan. I plan on being actively involved in that, to be honest with you.
Good.
Because everywhere I've gone in the city, I've heard feedback from the residents saying that's an issue for them.
Sure.
Sure.
I have a lot of parents who've called me over the last 2 years saying, they see people's New Hampshire plates pulling up and dropping their kids off. Now, in fairness, though, there are situations where there are kids who have parents that have split up. And mom lives in Methuen, but dad lives in Salem, New Hampshire, and dad had them this weekend, and he's the one dropping them off on Monday morning. So we have to kind of factor that. I don't know how
I completely understand that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there are also kids people who brag that their kids go to the Methuen schools, and they live in Methuen. They live in Lawrence, or they live somewhere else, and they're not in a split family, and that's not the situation for them.
Well, I think part of the answer is, somebody had said to me, just check all the Uber, coming. And in this day and age, to your point, things have changed. We have, even when you have two parents in the home, a lot of cases, both parents are working, so the kids get to school some other way. So there has to be a better plan than just, let's check everybody who takes Uber. I could see us getting criticized for that. Yeah. That's not where we'll go. We need to come up with a more aggressive plan, partner with the school resource officer to physically, verify certain things and act on it. And that, to me, is a mandate from the city. And
I heard Nick DiZoglio's wife, who we're not supposed to talk about, even though he talks about it and she gets involved herself, posted on my Facebook page and said, but it's going to cost so much money. And so my thought was, but look at the money we'd be saving. If we find 100 kids in the Methuen schools that shouldn't be here, look at all the money we save by kicking them out.
Well, and so it is. And so not to backtrack, it isn't just about money, right? So our class sizes in Methuen, and I've listened to the teachers, they're too high.
What's too high?
I think it averages 27. Is that not
27?
Yeah. So 27.
We have to have a whole conversation about that on a different day.
Yeah, we do.
27 is not too high. I had 40 kids in my classes at Lawrence High School.
I got news for you.
We got a better education then than we get today.
Well, remember, I was a bilingual teacher for 4 years, 3.5, and I taught 3 grades in one classroom. And I had 38 kids, and I sit here and tell you it was controlled pandemonium. I had one teacher's aide. I don't know what they called it, administrative aide, and it was chaotic. Trying to keep 38, trying to do reading groups and different learning levels and things like that. It all depends on what you want. What's the end result you're looking for, right? To me, 24, 25 is the max number you want to hit.
I don't know. I see kids go to college and they're sitting in an auditorium with 350 other kids and they seem to learn just fine.
That's different. College. Come on.
All right. Listen, we'll have to have that conversation another day.
You and I will go sit in study hall together.
All right. Listen, all right. I just know that I went to Lawrence High School. Yeah. I got, by the way, a great education at Lawrence High School. Yep. But I had 40 kids in my classroom. Yeah. And I hear all these classroom discussions about class sizes. And to me, it just seems like a move by the teachers union to try and get more teachers and get more to get more dues. Because I don't think it has to do with the number of kids in the classroom. To me, it has to do with the fact that you can't discipline a kid in the classroom anymore. So if you've got 35 kids in the class and 5 of them are disruptive, but the teacher doesn't have the authority to throw them the hell out, then that becomes a problem. But it's not the number of the kids in the class; it's the lack of ability to control the classroom.
Well, and it'd be easy for me to agree with you, but I'm not going to.
Why not?
Because I think
we can just move on to the next topic.
Don't make me laugh. Because I think what happens is, education when we were younger, Tom, was really focused on just one target audience. And I'm talking public education. It's mainstream target. And the high end and the low end were kind of left to fend for themselves. And I think we've come a long way with our approach to that. And so now the schools are trying to reach people at their level, students at their level, I should say, not people. And I think that's one of the things that's an improvement over education when we were there. And you can't do that with 30 kids in a classroom. That's my opinion. But maybe a good show would be have some teachers with me and we'll have a discussion on that. Well, that's
the beauty of doing a Methuen Mayor's Report is you can bring anybody you want on any given week. So if you want to show up with the police chief and talk about some new police initiatives, you want to show up with the fire chief or the superintendent or even just teachers or DPW workers that want to come in and talk about something that's going on, this is the vehicle to get that done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've got about, 10 minutes left, my fine producer, Ed Sullivan?
Yeah, I'll probably...
Have you recovered from all the debates?
Well, they were exciting.
Yeah. But have you recovered? You put in as many hours as I did.
Yeah. I'm almost recovered, but I didn't have to put out a newspaper.
We did miss you Halloween night.
Yeah, Halloween night. What happened?
We couldn't get all the way through the paying attention song at the beginning. Twice it croaked.
Yeah.
I think the producer wasn't paying attention.
That's exactly right.
By the way, Neil, if you want to find Tom, you'll have to go to detention, not study hall.
That's probably true. I was in detention a lot when I was in high school. But I got a great education out of Lawrence High, except for the math department was just awful. I still have to count on my fingers when I do math. But I had a great history teacher. And,
let's write that down. We won't put Duggan on the transition team of the financials.
You don't want me anywhere near anything that has to do with counting because I'll be doing this the whole time. Let's go back to the campaign a little bit. I think this has been a really healthy discussion.
Yep.
If you don't mind.
I don't mind.
I saw that first headline that came out in the Globe when you got attacked about and you don't have to even talk about any of the details, but I just want to talk about the overall stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw it and I read it and I thought, wow, this is the reason good people don't go into politics. This is the reason why you have people who are professionals. They've got a great career. They're very smart. They're very well educated, but they see that stuff. And they think, why would I step in and run for city council of my hometown? Why would I run for school board when they're just going to drag up something that maybe happened and maybe didn't happen and try and destroy my family, destroy my life? I couldn't even imagine. I winced when I saw it thinking about you reading it for the first time.
Yeah, so, I won't lie. It definitely hurt. But I was more concerned for my kids.
Yeah.
And
as a good father.
Yeah. And so, I say this, I'm going to keep saying this. So in the first place, none of that was true. I mean, there's a Raytheon employee here in the audience, and I was flabbergasted when that came out.
You're not a rapist like Harvey Weinstein?
No. Well, and so comparing me to, I mean, that's, we're so much better than that. I mean, to get down to that level. And somebody sent me a message, a little picture from Socrates that said, when the debate is lost, the slander begins. Right. And it was really uplifting. I'm going to tell you, we went to a couple events over the last weekend where a lot of people I didn't know. We went to this Methuen hockey fundraising dance, and we went to music bingo. I was kind of embarrassed. Right, my team helped me, saying you got to keep going, because I know it isn't true. I was uplifted by so many people, strangers, coming up to me saying, "We are so impressed that you didn't shoot back." I mean, the typical thing is,
let me tell you, if that was me, I would have nuclear bombed her into the next century. You have no idea what I would have done to that woman if she had done that to me. Yeah. And I stayed quiet on it, by the way. You'll notice I didn't chime in on that issue, but I had a wacky sister. I have a wacky stepsister that I insulted on Facebook, and she filed a restraining order against me. This was last summer. Yeah. And the cops came and they took my gun license, they took my gun, and I had to wait 10 days to appeal it. And I get in front of the judge, and we pull out the printouts, and she shows it to the judge, and he says, "Well, where's the threat?" And she said, "Well, I feel threatened. Isn't that enough?" Yeah. And he's like, "No." So we dismissed it. So now I'm reading the story about you, and I'm thinking, God, I know we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty in this country, but aren't we innocent when proven innocent? Yeah. Like, have we lost that concept completely?
Well, and, I didn't think of it till you just said it. So not only have I maintained a secret security clearance, but I have a license to carry.
Right.
And I carry.
Right.
And as you know, when a restraining order is processed against you, you lose it.
Yeah.
And I never lost it. Yep. I say that one of my concerns is, will it dog me for the whole 2 years? Will people, and I just say, I would hope, the results show me that we're far better than that, right? And I started saying, and I think I said, I don't know if you were at the party by the time, never has a father been prouder of his kids. Never. My kids did an exceptional job. And they, this was no staged
They turned the narrative. They turned the narrative around.
The campaign didn't stage this for them. They came to the campaign and said, "Hey, we want to say something." And within an hour of the first thing going out, they got my kids don't all live with me. 2 of them still do. I don't know if I'll ever get them out.
I have an empty room that I'm renting out.
And
it's $1,000 a month in North Andover. You can't beat it.
See, I'm not even taking any rent from them. That may be part of the reason they're still there.
Well, there's your problem.
And they got together and they put a response out, and then they didn't feel that was strong enough. And so the video came, and the video has been viewed by over 15,000 people.
That's almost as good as my ratings.
Yeah. And I was, the first time, I won't lie to you, the first time I watched it, I cried. Wow. Because I was truly impressed that they did. Yeah. And so out of all of this, you learn that the life lesson you learn is you teach your children every day in everything you do. And I did this for all the right reasons. And, election night, my kids came up and told me how proud of me they were. And I said, the hell with me. I'm proud of you guys. That you had to live through something painful that we went through together 20 years ago. Somebody brought it up for political gain. And
it was disgraceful. It was disgraceful.
Yeah.
Listen, it would be one thing if a TRO had been taken out against you and the judge, for whatever reason, decided to extend it.
Correct.
That would be one thing, but the fact that it got thrown out, again, you're innocent when proven innocent in this country. But speaking of being proud, I know I was extremely proud election night of Ali Safi.
Yeah.
And I saw you beam when you got the results.
I don't know if I was happier for me or happier for her.
I have to be honest. I was much happier for her.
Yeah,
because first of all, as a young woman who was facing a bully like Bill Bryant, who was doing all these things that he was lying about his conflicts, he's telling all kinds of stories, and she just put her nose to the grindstone, put the work in, hit the doors, did what she had to do. She didn't make these grandiose claims. She didn't lie about her background. She didn't try to obfuscate things. She just did the work, And she won, which I thought was just amazing. Yeah. It was amazing.
See, I've never had, I haven't had any, what's the correct word here? I haven't had any frequency with Bill.
Yeah.
So I can't call
You're
him
lucky.
a bully, but I would tell you, I was a little bit taken off guard by his comment during the debate when he said, when you push them for who they were supporting, and he at first demurred, and then he came around and he says, well, I've been involved in all these things for 25 years and I haven't seen this guy. Who is he? And I thought, that's a little bit disingenuous, right? Because I've been involved in a lot of things.
Here we call it a lie.
No, well, not a lie, because I think one of the things you always have to be careful of, and not just in politics, is your social circle. You can be doing things and not participating in the social circle, right? So I do a lot of volunteering. I always have. I'm gonna volunteer at the Festival of Trees a couple of nights this year. Right? I won't do what I've done in the past, but I believe in the organization and what they do.
They do great work.
Yeah, I'm going to give them I'm going to keep doing the TMF homeless thing. Things like that we should be doing, but just because I don't see you there doesn't make them any less valuable. Right? This is all about a personal experience, and you can't judge somebody until you sit in there, walk in their shoes.
What he wanted you to do was to go check in with him every time you showed up, so that way he can monitor your involvement.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry.
You had one of the other things during the campaign. We got about 4 minutes left. You were accused of being Sharon Pollard's puppet, and that she was the evil puppet master behind the scenes, pulling strings and all this garbage.
Yeah.
And you've somehow found a way around that. In the past in Methuen, that has worked. In the past, tying someone to someone else who's unpopular just because they're holding a sign for them or because they're helping them in some way has worked. And when that started, and I'm still hearing it today, I'm still hearing people that should know better, Mr. Gillis, talking about how you're Sharon's puppet and you are Sharon Pollard and she's really calling the shots.
Yeah.
Can you address that a little bit? Because I still don't get that at all. I mean,
Well, listen. So the people who know me, and the people who don't know me. So one of the things that I'm looking forward to as I move into this job is I'm going to be the mayor of Methuen. Not just the mayor of the people who voted for Neil Perry, the mayor of Methuen, the whole city. And I'm going to show everybody, not just the people who supported me, that I am a man of my word. And to me, that starts, we talked about the TMF thing. That doesn't, I don't have to wait till January 1st to start that. That starts, I live my life that way. And these people, even the people who were so vehement against me, are going to see that they may disagree with certain things I decide, but I'm going to make the decisions. The buck will stop with me. Sharon Pollard's not going to have a position in this administration. All right? I have great respect for her. She was a good mayor, no matter what people say.
She's never lost an election.
All right? I have a relationship with her because she didn't solicit me to run. She didn't, we are friends through the Festival of Trees because we share a mutual interest there. That's it. When you build a campaign team, and I say this candidly, I'm a businessman. What I knew about politics going into this, other than what I was taught during the campaign by some, I looked at people who knew her husband Tom, Jana. There was Mike Solomon, a bunch of guys and gals. Tina Tuma Conway, former city clerk.
Phil
the
future.
Yeah, I had you take a picture of him. I love that. Election night, so that nobody would have to Photoshop him into a photo with me anymore.
I love that.
And the funniest thing about the Photoshop picture is if you look closely at my hands, they're women's hands.
Right.
And so that's I have skin cancer.
I thought you were going trans on me for a minute when I saw that.
I'm okay with that, but I have skin cancer. And you can't hide that bandage, right? And so if you look at my hands and their shoulders, if you look at them close enough, you can see this pink nail polish on the end. And I like pink. I'm a big fan of pink, but not for nail polish for me.
I get it.
But the best way to show people is execution. I'll use Mike Gorman as an example. So, will I ask Sharon questions? You betcha. She's experienced. Will I ask other people who weren't for me questions? You betcha. Right? This is all about getting input from lots of people. I'm a big believer in diversity. The best idea is the worst idea is the one left unsaid. And so if you create an administration where people feel comfortable giving their inputs, then you get to better decisions collectively together.
And you're better than I am. You'll probably even sit down with a guy like Steve Saber and try and find out where you might have common ground on stuff. See, I would never do that, but you're a better guy than I am.
Well, and I say this. So, I say this. He went on that other program and talked about all the things he didn't like about me, and that's his right as a citizen, but I'm still going to work with him, and we're going to make decisions in the best interest of Methuen.
I want to give a big shout out to Nina at Climate Design Systems. She's a sponsor today. Also, JG's Ice Cream. We love JG's. I should have grabbed some on the way in so I could hold it up. Thank you to Ed, our fine producer.
Thank you, Ed.
Who's been with us throughout our studio audience. Thank you very guys for coming. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Except for Scott.
All one of you, all three of you. Yeah. So this is going to be maybe the first week of every month. We'll get you the first Thursday of every month here.
Absolutely.
And we'll give you free reign to do what you want. It's going to be your show.
Yep.
And we will see you guys next week. We're going to have a special guest in the studio. And by the way, tomorrow, I made a cameo in a music video, in a rock music video. It's going to be released tomorrow on YouTube. Jenny Teeter's new song, Daughter of the Devil, and it was shot in Methuen at Route 110 convenience store. Our friend Hasmu let us use his shop. So keep an eye out for that. Heroes in Our Midst, Volume 2 will be out before the Bash, and the Bash will be March 27th. Melvin Taylor says we got to go home, so go home already.
Thank you, guys.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.